I am tearing up.
I just about screamed right now, and I'm not even there.
Now that's inspirational, Natalie. I feel inspired today.
Part two of this.
I could be here for another hour.
And then I was at the top of my class. There were only 2 of us, and the other guy was in the hospital. So here I am.
And I always go, he winds up homeless on the street. It's my fault.
Yeah, now you sound like my wife.
And you can get off.
I don't know. Call it Google. Or call it Google.
Alexa, how did you get across?
Paul, I cut you off earlier. What were you going to say?
What?
Dang it! Don't do that to me, Paul. Don't do that to me, man.
I don't know what got into my head, but I thought this thought, if I'm working year round, I might as well get paid year round.
CEWT Talk is a weekly 20-minute podcast brought to you by the Continuing Education and Workforce Training Division of Idaho State University's College of Technology. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud, and subscribe today. Now, it's time to get started with CEWT Talk.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to CEWT Talk, our weekly podcast for Idaho State University Continuing Education and Workforce Training. Hey, Gary, I'm right on the radio voice today, aren't I?
You've got it right. And it's perfect, too, because we're going into a long weekend. I love being able to end the week on a Friday with a great podcast. So thanks for doing all that, man.
Yeah. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Yeah, long night, a little sick puppy, but I'm glad she's doing better already. And, my day's starting to look up. And now we have this great podcast. What a way to start the Friday. Yeah. Super.
For anyone who's never joined us before, Gary Salazar is the Director of Continuing Education and Workforce Training, or as we like to call it here, CEWT.
Yeah, it is sweet. This is, after all, CEWT Talk. Yeah.
So Gary, we have Angie joining us again as always. She's like our regular host now.
Yes, she is. She's coming on strong. She's probably going to take the lead on a lot of the questions here. But as before, I think if something pops into your or my mind, we want to ask. Maybe we'll get some of those in. But Angela's been awesome. For everybody who doesn't know, she is our marketing coordinator and is doing a fantastic job. We're getting a lot of good stuff that's coming out of her office right now for many different programs. And there'll be more stuff within our catalog. And she can talk about some of that later on with respect to our guests. Welcome, Angela. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You were touring this wonderful, our guest around yesterday or the day before, and I got a chance to meet her. Maybe you'd like to do a quick hello to her and bring her into our podcast?
Yes, joining us today is Karen Trumbull. She is a goat farmer and goat cheese maker, as well as a master food preserver who has shown some interest in teaching classes for us in 2023. So welcome, Karen. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you for the intro. I was born and raised here in Southeast Idaho, and I moved away for college, then ended up in Oregon, then Washington, and we are now back. So I brought my herd of alpine dairy goats to get the quality lines you want. It takes a generation or two in your goat herd. So I feel like I've got some pretty good goats out there, and I thought I'd bring them over.
Well, we are very excited to have you on today. Can you talk a little bit about how you got involved with goat farming and goat milk and cheese?
Well, it really started with my mom. When we were here, we lived out in Moreland on a pretty big place, and my dad had dairy cows, and my mom had dairy goats. And so the dairy goats produced the milk to feed the baby calves, and then we could sell all the cow milk. So I was in 4-H for 8 years, and I was an FFA for 4 years and did leadership roles with that, and traveled the country with different FFA events, and went to many fairs, showed many animals, and then I got married to a city boy, and we lived in the city for a while.
He doesn't know goats or cows, city boy?
Nothing. In fact, honestly, he's allergic to them. So he really, it's real bad. It's real bad. So anyway, we were finally able to buy some property out in Washington, and yeah, like the first 2 weeks I had goats already, and it just went back from there.
Well, that's very, very interesting and exciting. So with the goats, you actually answered my next question, which was how long have you been involved with this? It seems like it's been a really lifelong love for you. I have grown up with equines and as well, and have a little bit of knowledge on cows. And I'm interested to ask you how you have to take care of these goats in order to produce the cheese and the milk, because from what I understand, sometimes the different feeds that they get can influence the quality or taste of the milks.
Right. So the same for cows and goats. What they take in, they're going to reprocess and create a product. So if my girls, I give them a molasses grain at their dairy feeding. Otherwise, they're out on grass. They have grass hay and, of course, plenty of water. But that a little bit of molasses in their feed gives just a touch of sweet on their milk, and it feeds out into what you're drinking.
Oh my! I just had this revelation when you said that your girls. I'm thinking, well, what about the boys? But then I just now realized the boys don't do milk, do they?
Nope, they don't do milk and they don't do alfalfa.
City boy. Yeah.
Welcome to Birds and Bees 101.
Oh, okay. So what you mentioned early on, I'm sorry, Angela, I got to ask this.
No, go ahead.
What is a herd? I mean, how many do you have that qualifies as a herd?
Well, at this minute, so I'm milking 8 girls, right? I'm calling them girls. They're my girls. They come to me, they know their names. They're awesome. I've got 8 girls milking right now. And then I actually just added to my herd 4 yearlings that I'll be breeding this fall, plus the 4 yearlings I raised from last year. So I'll be milking possibly 16 next year.
Oh my gosh.
And those are the milkers. And then I do have 3 herd sires because I need to make sure that I don't breed, dads to daughters. I'm not into that. Because you don't want that doubling up on specific genetics. Okay. And that's pretty much. I have does and I have a few bucks.
Oh wow.
Does and bucks are deer. Is that what I'm talking about?
Does and bucks.
Deer. Okay.
Deer, a female deer.
Okay, but this is silly. You're not milking the does, are you?
So does are female goats.
Goats.
Yeah. Doe goats are female.
No goats. Okay. Yeah. All right.
And then buck boys.
No deer. No deer at all.
No deer. No deer. This is all goats. All goats.
Your husband's gonna laugh. He goes, "Yeah, that's what I thought too when I heard this first time."
Yeah.
All right. I better stop. Paul, you ask.
Yeah. So you grew up with goats, and you were milking the goats to give to the dairy cows, but then how did you get into the goat cheese?
So technically, on our little farm, I've got 8 milking goats, so I'm bringing in gallons of milk. So what I've told people is I raise crops. So when the does give birth, I raise their babies. So their babies get raised. They're taken away from the mamas because on dairy goats, they're giving up to 1 gallon to 2 gallons of milk per goat. And one baby goat doesn't need that much milk. So at birth, they're taken away. I let my mamas take a look at their babies and they get a babysit for a day or 2, but they don't get to feed them. So once they know they're safe, and their hormone levels even out, they're good to not even bother with the babies anymore. They don't care. So I raise the baby goats, and at 2 and 3 months when they're weaned, I then actually purchase another baby animal to raise on that milk, unless I'm making more cheeses and soaps regularly. So my next crop here, what I did this summer was I went and bought some Charolais Holstein calves, some heifers, and I've raised them, and they're now more than double in size, and they're at 3 months old. They've totally excelled on goat milk because goat milk is a very easy interspecies milk due to the fact that it's naturally homogenized. So it doesn't separate out into cream and non-cream immediately. If you leave some in the fridge for a few days, you will get a little bit of a header of cream, but it doesn't automatically separate out like a cow's milk does.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Now you brought in cows. Did I get that right? I'm trying to stay up with the batting order here.
Yeah.
Okay.
She only uses it for reference. She only uses it as a
Okay.
reference.
You're bringing in cows for milk also, or are these meat cows?
Well, what I was referencing was I raise crops of baby animals. So
Crops of
goats.
baby
Yeah, I
animals.
call them crops. They are sellable. They are raisable for something future.
Got
So
it.
I raised baby goats, and now I've raised baby calves, and those calves are now out in the field on grass.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you had the excess milk that you
Excess
needed
milk.
to do something with.
Yes.
So that's how you got into the
That's
cheese
it.
making.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. So were you just making the cheese for yourself initially, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the easiest ones are chev and ricotta and mozzarella. Those are the 3 easiest cheeses.
Soft cheeses. Okay. So are you just strictly making soft cheeses then?
Right now, yes. I do have a
Okay.
cheese press. I have 2
Okay.
cheese presses, and I've got you need the wax, and yeah.
How much milk do you need to create? I mean, I guess you don't need a lot, but to actually have a good yield of cheese, how much milk do you need, and how much, I guess, how many goats you need to make that amount of milk, I guess.
Well, for one family, there's a rule of thumb out there that if you're producing the milk specifically for your family and specifically for drinking and cheeses, you'll want 1 goat per person. Now, when you're making cheese, a common recipe will yield about 1 gallon to 1 pound of cheese.
Now,
Wow.
were you making the cheese
Wow.
just for your personal use initially?
Yes.
Okay. So when did you transition? I mean, you're selling it, correct?
And
So-
not yet at this time.
Not yet
There's
at this time.
regulation. There's always state and county regulations.
Okay. But is that your plan, is to
Yeah.
sell cheese? Okay. Excellent. And I also heard you say soap.
Soap. I heard soap too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, goat.
goat soap. Okay. What kind of, I mean, I kind of understand the process of making cheese, I think, but how do you make soap?
So soap, so you're going to need a chemical, or the recipe I use. You always want to say it that way because there's so many recipes out there and there's so many ways to do all of this. So the recipe I use some lye, and it comes in a bottle, and it doesn't take a lot of it. So you need, I use a mixer specifically, and I bought a mixer off of eBay long ago, and it's got a glass base and a glass, it's got a glass base and a steel turner. It's a stand mixer. Man, I can't come up with the words. And you have to do it with ventilation because lye is a caustic ingredient. But from there, I'm adding in shea butter, coconut butter, or coconut oil, shea butter. You're adding in your different lubricants, plus and at a point in the recipe, you do your milk and your lye. And it does not take a lot of goat milk. But what it does is it adds a creaminess and a softness to the soap, so it's softer on your skin.
Okay.
It's
So
lovely.
when did you start making soap? And
A few years.
what made you go, I'm going to make soap?
If you go to fancy markets, they've got goat milk soap, and they're selling them for $4, $5, $6 a bar. So if you're going to look at an end product that's going to do some kind of return on your money, it's a great product.
Now, do you have to add scents to the soap, or is it just the, okay. All right.
Definitely, and of course, essential oils are the first go-to. And then you can also add coloring. So yeah.
So you're planning to, take all the stuff you're doing, and you're hoping to make a business down the road selling the goat milk product and the cheese and soap. Am I right?
Yeah, because I can do a few hours of labor and then set it up in a stand outside my house. And then people can come during the day and pick up what they want and need. And we can do an honor system with, a change box, and just make it a simple, just a simple interaction.
Yeah.
Hey, and what's going to be the name of your company? Have you gotten that far? That sounds like a fun thing to think about.
I'm tempted to stay with goats, especially with dairy goats. There's called an American Dairy Goat Association, so ADGA. And right now, my farm name is Hales Valley Ranch because I grew up out in Moreland, and that was my mom's herd name through ADGA 25 years ago.
Oh.
So I bought the name back, and I'm tempted to stay with that. We'll see how it goes.
Oh, how
No.
cool. You know, some really good future planning in
Mhm.
this thing.
Yeah.
So in the initial, to change subjects just for a second here, when Angie first introduced you, she said something about a master canner or
Yes. It's
Food
called a master
preservatives.
food preservers course.
Yeah.
master
food preservers.
preserver.
Mhm.
What is a master food
All
preserver?
right. Now this one's fun because I've been doing a little research since I talked to Angie. So out in Clark County, Washington, a master food preserver, oh my goodness, master food preserver course is offered through Washington State University Extension Office. And what it is, it's a 6-week course where one day a week, the group gets together and is instructed on different facets of food preservation. And with the science and the information behind it as to why everything needs to be done safely and correctly. And then once this class is completed, the people are certified master food preservers. And then they go out into the community and they do pressure gauge testing and more smaller classes, such as like a strawberry jam class or a bread in a bag class. But the different courses or in the different classes are pickling, so you can pickle dilly beans and cucumbers and garlic. And then there's also the strawberry jam in the jam classes and the preserve class. Then there's a jerky and dehydrating class. And because on the dehydrator, you can do everything, herbs, meats, vegetables and fruits. And then there's a freezing class to properly get your vegetables and fruits prepared for the freezer, because it's not just, oh, look, I'll just throw it in. And then there's the pressure canning classes, and that's for low acid foods, meats and vegetables. And then the water bathing, which is for fruits and pickles.
Wow.
Yeah, wow is right.
Wow.
Now, every one of those things you mentioned, those are like full classes, aren't they? Or is this all one class that could be taught?
Well, so in the Master Food Preserver course, it's 6 weeks and each day is 6 to 8 hours long, and you have lab time and you're learning just pickling. And then the next one, you're learning just dehydrating. And you're going to go through, how to do bananas and applesauce and apple purees and in the dehydrator class. And then you're going to do a pressure canning class. And pressure canning takes a little minute because you got to get, when you're doing a full demo on pressure canning, it takes a while to get that canister up to temperature, and then it takes the processing time and then the decompressing time after. So it takes a little bit of time to do pressure canning.
Oh, yeah, I can see. And also these are hands-on classes, right? It's not something that you just sit and learn, sitting down. You get your hands in there and start fiddling with the pressure devices or whatever that is, and the cans, and that stuff has to be sterilized too, doesn't it? I mean, when you put stuff in that glass jar and you vacuum seal it or whatever you do, that thing has to be a city boy. Come on, that has to be pretty clean, right?
Yes, cleanliness is very, before I start canning anything, I have to clean my whole kitchen first. It's just a thing. And then really the jars you can put them in your dishwasher and run them through a sterilizing cycle. And then you can just leave them in your dishwasher and pull them out as you're filling them.
So
awesome.
How long have you been interested in food preservation? Is it something that you grew up with, or is something that you kind of were attracted to later on?
So with food preserving, I think I've been interested in it in a long time. My mom was a heavy duty canner. Any extra produce went right into a jar. We raised our own huge garden. And the background of just being a canner and a food preserver is the fact that in earlier times, people raised all of their gardens and all their food themselves, and it had to last the whole year. So they made sure and did, 52 quarts of green beans or 52 quarts of peaches, because you wanted at least one a week. And when you think of it that way, it's like, oh, 32 isn't that many, as long as you're using it in your regular food.
Right.
So I became a master food preserver in 2008. I just had a little bit of time on my hands. I saw the class was available, and I'd already been canning for 5 years. So I thought, well, I'm going to go learn the safety information and the science behind it. And I did learn a few new tricks and tips, and it was totally worth it because I'm learning from the community, and not everybody knows the safety behind what needs to do and what type of tools. There are specific tools when you're doing food preservation. So it was good to know that.
So it also probably made you a more well-rounded food preserver as well, giving you new skills for, stuff that you might have not have preserved previously.
Yeah, well, it opened the door to more things. So I've actually taught out in the community many classes. One of them is dehydrated meals in a jar. So if you're looking for emergency, I know, don't blow your mind. Hold on. It's an amazing concept, and there are so many facets to it. But it's creating a meal, like let's say rice and herbs and dehydrated chicken. Even I don't know if you've heard of freeze-dried meat and freeze-dried fruits, right? Well, you can create meals in a jar. And then that jar can be sealed, and you can use a seal-a-meal because there are attachments for jars. And you pull the air out of that, and that's good for as long as the shortest shelf life of the items inside. So that's usually a dairy product at 5 years.
Wow.
So, but that jar can now be put into a pot, add your 10 cups of water, and you have over 10 servings of food with 1 quart jar of dehydrated and freeze-dried items. And they already have all seasonings and flavor in them. I know, right?
Really incredible. Hey, Paul and Angela, I don't know if you heard it, but our timer did go off.
No,
I
didn't. Sorry, man.
Already?
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I know you're teaching classes, but I got one, and we want to talk about that before we wrap up. But what does your husband think about all of this?
He's kind of along for the ride.
He's along for the ride. He's allergic, but he's on.
When I have to practice things and he has to eat them, oh no.
Well, you said he was a city boy, and then it sounds like he's like you're kind of in really taking the farm culture or self-maintaining culture that he's probably not used to growing up.
Yeah, but he's been around it a few years now.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
So he's seen it as it's developed, and I have a food wall where I have a half-gallon jars full of different kinds of beans and different things because I do a soaking and a soaking and sprouting courses too. So we practice with grains and beans, and he's seen it. He's seen a lot.
So he's your guy you experiment on. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So before we started, I was told that you're going to be teaching some classes for us this spring.
Yeah, I'm developing which ones will work best, and then I did get a hold of the extension office to see if they want to use me as a teacher for the Master Food Preserver course here. So that'd be a bigger set. But I'm putting together the cheese classes, but it's got to be when milk's available. So the first few may be milk straight from the store, cow milk classes where we make cheese. And then we can do more classes when the goats are producing, they give birth.
Yeah, we're going to have to figure out a schedule for some of these classes. I hadn't thought about that either. So that's a good point. Yeah, I'm looking forward to when those classes come about, and I know Angela's going to be working with you on getting those into our catalog. So the more research you do, the more fun stuff you come up with from whether it's I don't know, goats or cows or does or
soap
or herds or all those technical terms. This is going to be awesome. Yeah. Hey, Paul, our time's up. I mean, why don't we let Angela say goodbye, and then you can close this up. What do you think?
I could be here for another half hour.
Yeah, this has been fascinating.
I'll tell you what, I don't think we have a long enough series to actually cover everything that Karen knows.
Oh my,
So
yeah.
she's very, very interesting. If you are interested in taking any class Karen offers, please keep a lookout for our spring 2023 courses. Those should hit about December. Those should open up. January, they will be open for sure, but that catalog should hit your mailbox in December if you're in the Pocatello or Blackfoot area. If anyone is interested in taking similar classes, we do have some culinary arts classes and a microgreen class currently available. You can take a look out for all of Karen's classes or find current classes at cetrain.isu.edu. And thank you very much, Karen, for being a guest on our podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And if you want to reach out to us, you can email us at cetrain@isu.edu or give us a phone call at 208-282-3372. Karen, I have enjoyed this podcast so much. We have to have you on again. I've got so many questions. You probably noticed I had lots of questions this episode.
Not a problem. I'm willing. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Okay.
very, very cool. Thank you very much, Karen. And everybody, y'all be safe out there, okay?
All right, be safe.